Okay, so picking up from where I left off, it just took me a minute to find the graphic option. You'll actually select this question. You will go to just, I think one way to do it, I'm sure there are other ways. Here we go. You can go to content type, you can go to graphic, and then you select a graphic to use. It's not super intuitive. And so I actually have two files or two pictures that I uploaded here in the past. If you were doing a new photo, you just hit upload new graphic, you'd go to choose new file, and then you could from there, of course, find your image and then upload it from there. Like I could just do like a picture of a house right here, for instance. Give it a moment, and just like that, you'd have a graphic. So if you don't do that though, I'm just going to select from one of these two I already have uploaded. So I'm just going to upload this very poor picture from like a year ago. Man, AI's come a long way. This is like, I asked, I think ChatGPT like a year ago to do a picture of an F-150 Lightning, and this is what it came up with. So yeah, that's my graphic for option A. You see this advertisement for an electric pickup truck. And then I'll do graphic 2. And one thing I also want to emphasize with these scenarios is you very much want as many things to be as the same as possible. And what I mean by that is you don't want to change the graphic and the wording. You want to change one thing or the other. So for instance, I could keep the same graphic and just call this an F-150 Lightning instead of an electric pickup truck and then see if there's a difference. Or what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to use the same description here and then use just a different graphic. So same thing here, text graphic, content type, graphic. I'm just going to copy and paste this actual scenario too because I don't feel like typing. There you go. Select graphic to use. Here's the other graphic I had in the past. Obviously, if I was doing this in a more controlled setting, I'd probably like remove some of the wording and stuff. But I'm just going to leave this as is. So option A, option B, scenario 1, scenario 2. And those are your two scenarios. So let's move on to the DVs. DVs, you need to have at least one interval question. You need to basically have all four scale types. So nominal, interval, ordinal, and ratio. And you also, actually you don't need an ordinal. I'll scratch the ordinal. I'll put out the specifics on Canvas after this. So you don't need an ordinal. You do need a few nominal scales. Those are just demographics basically. You do need an interval scale and you do need a ratio scale. Yeah, I don't really see any point of having an ordinal scale though. Well, actually, yeah, no, because you're not going to be ranking. You're not going to have your participants rank images or anything, and you don't have to use an image. By the way, they're like you could write out a more detailed scenario. Like, picture this scenario: you're in Walmart shopping, and someone cuts your cart off and flips you the bird. What are you going to do? Or like, how do you feel about Walmart now? But don't ask that until the DVs. So like, you can just write out a very detailed scenario. You don't have to have a graphic. It's good practice to get a graphic, especially because AI can generate some pretty good graphics right now, but you don't have to. What you do need, though, are the scale types. So I'll show you how to do each of these. What I'm going to start off with, you also need one unstructured question as well. So first, I'm just going to add an open-ended question, which is going to be text entry. So that's going to be unstructured response. What are your initial thoughts on the quality of the ad? So unstructured response, open-ended question, that's it. You can presumably then take this and like code people's thoughts about the response. You're also going to add an interval scale, and to do that, you're just going to go to either ChatGPT or Gemini. I like Gemini at the moment. Find a research-based interval scale for ad likability. actually no, we'll do purchase intentions. You can do any construct you want. You can do purchase intentions, you can do satisfaction, you can do perceived quality, you can do likability, you can do literally anything. And that's a little bit too much. I don't need to do deep research. So I'm just going to copy and paste this and start a new chat. Also, pro tip, you can get Gemini for free as a student for a year, so make use of that sometime. So I'm going to let Gemini do its thing for a moment and get back to here. So while Gemini is searching for an interval scale, again, I do not know why it's ready to do deep research for me. Let's see. 2.5 flash. Don't need that. Find a academic based. Okay, here we go. Maybe don't use the word research because they'll think it needs to research. Oh, there you go. Weird. Okay, here we go. Purchase intentions. Yep. And actually find some sites, maybe. Okay, Gemini's failing me. What are... Find a 3-item Likert scale for purchase intentions. This really should be easier than it is. Okay, here we go. I will probably buy... I mean, this definitely just made it up. Realistically, you should find this in actual research. Let's see, Dodds, Monroe, Greenwald, Zythamel. Yeah, so like this is actually the scale I was thinking of. So ideally, you would actually find this in research. To do that in research, you would actually go to scholar.google.com, purchase intentions scale, and then you'd find one of these top-cited articles with an actual scale. You'd pull these statements from it, and that's how you do it the right way. The shortcut way, obviously, because for sake of time, we have limited time to do this, is just do an LLM. So you'll take these statements and you're going to paste them into what's called a matrix table. Matrix table just means that you have multiple statements and scale points. So respond to each of the following statements based on the ad you saw, or with regard to the ad you saw. Paste this. I would probably buy, and obviously you substitute the statements to make sense. And it's just really that easy. I intend to purchase this product. And your scale does need to have at least 3 items. So going back to the lecture on measurement, 3 items minimum for a construct, so at least have 3 items. All of them, obviously, as you can tell, are kind of related, similar questions, but again, this isn't a perfect scale, so we won't worry about it. And then you do need at least a 5 to 7 point scale. So we're going to use suggested scale points, and we're going to have 5, which is perfect. So there you go. That is your interval scale. Let's see. And also make sure that you do actually anchor these with one. Yeah, make sure you actually do anchor these with numeric values. So right now this is actually an ordinal scale, and the reason for that is that I don't have numeric points. So technically this is actually an ordinal scale at the moment. We are going to turn it into a interval scale though. So maybe we won't actually, maybe we will not use these suggested statements. So, or you can just use them and then add 1 for like new numbers before each of them. Your scales definitely need to have numbers before them though. So bad on qualtrics for not doing that by default, but take the extra 30 seconds and add it. Okay. Now this is an interval scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have fixed numbers between each point. This is an interval scale. Cool. So the last scale that you need is a ratio scale. And it has to be a ratio scale independent of demographics. So in this case, I'm just going to do a text entry again. So let's see. Ooh, I can actually get fancy with this. I'll do a slider. You don't have to do a slider. You can do... Yeah, you don't have to do a slider. You could do a text entry as well, so I'll do both. So slider ratio is what I'll call this one, and we'll get rid of these extra statements. And we'll say indicate what percentage of your annual income in your dream career you'd be willing to spend on this truck. Obviously, it's not a perfect question because that number can vary, but this is the slider scale, and so this is a true zero. You can spend 0% to 100%, so that's a ratio scale. And you could also do this, which is much easier, of course. Form field, text entry. Call it a slider. No, not slider. Text ratio. Indicate how much money in USD you'd be willing to spend on this truck. And for this one, if you do a text entry, let's do a single line. And you're actually going to have to do one more thing here. You're going to have to go to the question and go to response requirements, hit add requirements, force response. You should do that actually for all your questions, and hit also add validation. And you're going to go to content type and put a number. So make sure you do that for this text validation side. For these, you can just hit force response for all these questions, which just makes people respond. And that's pretty much the only thing you need to do for those. And make sure you definitely do force response for the consent question as well. So that's just under response requirements right here, and then you just check the force response button. So those are my technically 4 scales plus the unstructured question. And now we'll go to demographics. Demographics, you just need 2 demographic questions. They can be whatever you want. So I'll do a multiple choice one. Let's call this gender. Indicate your gender. And just drop that down. Oh, wow. And then, last but not least, we can do a ratio question. So for instance, let's see. Education level is always an easy one. So I'll do, okay, your education level. No, that's not good. High school dash GED. Okay, so those are your demographic questions, and that is all of the questions you need. Now I'm going to do one more quick video and show you how to actually make sure that people aren't seeing both of these scenarios, because right now what would happen is if you were to preview the survey, this took a little more than 15 minutes. Someone hits yes, I agree. They see ad A, and oh no, they also see ad B. So now which ad did they respond to? Like, they get all the questions, but they see both ads. Also, you can also go to preview if you're never sure how it's going to look like.